Brian and Sean, can we get you guys to introduce yourselves and talk about your topic? Thanks so much.
Sure. How are you, everyone? Thanks, Marty, for having us, and thank you, Jeff, and other colleagues for sharing some amazing insights. We're going to be showcasing South Korea. So among the global economies, there's a lot of trends coming out of South Korea that are actually being accelerated by COVID-19. So I know a lot of our panelists talked about the disruption and the distress. We're going to highlight the markets that are booming. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-founder, Brian Koo, to share a little bit about himself.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. Again, thanks, Marty, for this great opportunity. Really quick about myself. I'm a third generation from the family business perspective. My grandfather and his brother started the LG group, LG business in Korea. My father mainly ran the electronics business, so that was kind of my universe before I came over to US about 20 years ago. So I went to Stanford for my studies, and then I jumped into the startup world, VC world. I've been always doing cross-border, and that's what Sean and I am also doing over here. And yeah, I did, start the fund called Formation 8. We did invest in mostly US companies, tech companies here, and help them get to Asia. And now we're continuing that, but we're very excited about the other direction, east to west, that we'll talk about.
Awesome. Once again, my name is Sean Ko. I also run a multi-generational family office. We've been known for inventing things like HDMI technology, privatizing various emerging markets in Asia and Central Asia. And also we have one of our prized holdings, a trophy asset in New York called Manhattan Woods Golf Club, where I'd love to invite Marty, you and your network, now that things are easing and we're social distancing on the golf course.
We'll be there as soon as we can, Sean. And Sean, don't sell yourself short. I mean, I think you're one of the co-founders of a really fantastic next generation family office group that has had meetings for years and years at the United Nations during that UN week, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I launched a summit with the United Nations focused on innovative philanthropy and impact investing. This was in 2011, and it's been going on ever since. And another detail is I'm also a multi-platinum music producer and recording artist. And that'll make a little bit more sense as we share the presentation. So our group that we're presenting today is a combination of Brian's companies and my companies under a holdings group structure called Mao Holdings. Mao Holdings is a first of its kind entertainment and lifestyle group that's on a mission to shape the next generation through culture defining products, platforms, and communities. Maum is a Korean word. So if you don't mind, I'll teach you a Korean word, which means from the heart. So along with what Marty highlighted, our passion for impact, this is the first time that Brian and myself have seen our respective skill sets, have seen our respective resources and networks, really line with our heart, especially in light of COVID-19. We're not only creating tremendous impact, but tremendous returns already with this new paradigm shift. So we believe the American consumer is ready for something new. Brian is joining us from Silicon Valley. I'm joining you from New York. So between Wall Street and Silicon Valley, we already have tremendous interest in our various business lines. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience are familiar with any of these case studies, but us and our team have been instrumental in bringing top films. Parasite, as you know, is a South Korean film that won the Academy Awards in Cannes Film Festival. We've also been involved in globalizing the Korean cosmetics market with K-Beauty. And if you don't know about K-Beauty, it's the leading global cosmetics trend, and we're already creating various products for the likes of Sephora. Finally, on the music side, where my music background plays in, there's groups like BTS, who I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, and others that have hit #1 records here in the United States. So this is just a snapshot of the Asian American population, which is our captive audience. But the total population of America is starting to gravitate towards our respective businesses and product offerings. The 6 sections of our ecosystem that we'll share with you are as follows, and I'll hand it off to my co-founder, Brian Koo, to share about Maum Kitchen.
We started this place in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley called Maum. It was not to really run a restaurant business, but the thesis was that no one really captured the brand ownership, brand image in the U.S. market yet that connects to premium, authentic, cool kind of Asian culture. And we thought food would be the easiest way to engage with people, so we did start opening this. It's one table dining place. Thankfully we got the Michelin star. We're the only one under Korean category in the West Coast. But more than that, we started really getting the recognition from the foodies and the tech leaders and friends that the experience is great. This is about the Asian culture we want to really experience more. And now we're expanding the business to the next level, which is to make it more as a commissary, more as a studio. We believe all these are content source, right? And it's more like a platform. Given the COVID-19, we're glad our choice was right. It's going to be more as a platform with collaboration, technologies, private label. We're putting this all into one project now called Shop Maum, which is about an e-commerce platform to bring in existing great brands in Asia, plus our own private label. So these are kind of examples. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but kimchi and sauce and liquors. We have our own caviar. We're now going into fashion, beauty items. Again, existing brands that we think would be do very well in US or our own private label, right? And as I mentioned earlier, we think these are all sources for for contents. So we're also working on our own contents, but then at the same time exploring partnerships and great kind of global audience basis kind of content series at this moment.
Yeah, so along those lines, there's a lot of cultural shows that have showcased different cutting edge food trends. So we're working with people such as Snoop Dogg, Martha Stewart, to kind of create an Asian themed program to popularize, what we've done on the high end with Michelin awards.
Yes, and we've been also working very hard on what is the right way of doing this commerce channel for all the right Asian products and cultural aspect. We believe in online and offline integration. Yes, COVID-19 is making it very challenging for the offline, so we're pushing the online first, but we still believe that a certain component with experience-driven offline part is going to be quite critical. You can imagine kind of Italy that many of you might be familiar with, but with technology integrated with online and premium Asian culture instead of Italian culture.
Brian and Sean, what's the size of these companies that you're working with? Are they like venture, or are they lower middle market that have an opportunity to go global? Can you?
Oh, well, so yeah, we are incubating our more early stage because we're incubating them from our holdings. But then the brands we are we're bringing over, they all vary, right? Some of them are still early in their own market, but we see the hot trend. Some are actually already the #1 winner in their market, so it's proven. But then they're new in the U.S. market and European market, right? So that's why, like this slide that Sean is showing, this shows you we're doing our own kind of Maum private label brand and e-commerce for that reason, because we can be the channel and the relationship we have with the distribution people here, storytelling, marketing people. If we can connect that to the right products that are already proven to be the hot ones in their own market, and again, as Sean mentioned earlier, the millennials and the consumers in US and Europe, we believe are also now embracing, right? This Asian products. There's a huge opportunity we see.
And then we both have experience in launching and scaling various global e-commerce platforms, generating billions of dollars in top-line revenue. Mm-hmm. Next, I'm going to highlight the entertainment side, given my entertainment background. Before we highlighted the film Parasite, but there's also a TV show called The Masked Singer. I'm sure a lot of people in quarantine have had a chance to watch it on Fox. But all this content is originally from South Korea. So what we're doing is creating a content arbitrage strategy where we're taking the best content and the best creators and arbitraging them into Hollywood and other global markets. Next category is on the music side. So if you look at other demographics in America, music has been a powerful tool and also a powerful business to let them get a foothold in mainstream America. We see this about 30, 40 years ago with the hip hop genre, how it helped elevate the African-American demographic, and also with the likes of BTS and other K-pop groups. There's a growing demand for local artists who produce music. I myself have produced, chart-topping songs here in America and also in Asia. And now large record companies like RCA and Atlantic are essentially looking for, who will be the next quote unquote Asian Elvis Presley or Asian Justin Timberlake. And because content has very small capex, we're anticipating and we're already creating various cash flows from streaming services like Spotify, video services like YouTube, and other markets accelerated by COVID-19. This is an example of a business model from South Korea that's been doing exceptionally well. So this is the group BTS. And as some of my colleagues who spoke today talked about the disruption and distress caused by COVID-19, this business has actually been booming. As you can see, with one concert, this group was able to sell over $20 million of tickets just for a 1-hour event. And we're gonna continue to replicate this model. This is how the online concerts look. I think Jeff earlier mentioned Broadway and how Broadway is deteriorating. Well, we're bringing everything to a digital online experience with interactive virtual goods to create alternative revenue systems. So fans are able to buy these AR emojis and you can monetize it that way. Fans are able to show their face on the screen and we're able to monetize that way as well. So that's our strategy, and we're in talks with some of the biggest groups such as Blackpink. You may have seen them on the Jimmy Fallon show recently. They have over billions of views on the music videos, and last year they did 57 million in revenue from their global concerts. And we're taking all these different territories' revenue and consolidating it in one online event. Just so that you can see an example of the stadiums that all these groups fill out that we work with. Maum Care. If you've seen recent headlines, South Korea has been a role model for COVID-19 response. We here in America, in New York, we're new to wearing masks and taking these precautions. But if you look at Asia, they've been through SARS, they've been through MERS, they've been through a number of coronaviruses. So what we're doing actually is taking those best technologies, whether it's test kits or whether it's premium masks from Brian's company LG, and we're doing large cross-border deals and supplying hospitals, governments, and some of the largest retailers. As you can imagine, all the retailers now are limited on inventory levels, and we're the direct supply source for them. So this is our network. Just like Marty has created an amazing network, we also have a strong network in entertainment, also in Asia. So we're here to serve you as a community in terms of connecting the dots if you're ever interested in globalizing. And Maum Capital, our last component, I'll let Brian highlight.
Yes, so we, we're these projects we just shared with you, and more we have, those are the ones we're incubating from the holdings at this moment. But at the same time, given kind of the proprietary access points we have and the huge opportunity we see under this thesis, and given we've been, kind of managing funds and started, these kind of vehicles before, we're planning to launch a Maum Capital vehicle down the road. We're still figuring out the detail, but it is to have a pool of capital where, co-investors, family offices, institutions can be part of this plan and ecosystem. And we want to have a little bit more institutional approach, additional to the way we're incubating projects at this moment, mainly because of the typical size and structure of some of these deals that we already see, which I'll just walk through one.
Marty's point, here's some of the larger deals that are kind of coming up through our proprietary network.
Right, and this is really driving us to think about what kind of institutional vehicle we want to introduce to folks very soon, because this is one example I'll just go really quick through. One part of my family business group is called LSM-tron. Without too much detail, they had a blue chip business in the copper foil industry. It was great for the growing electric vehicle industry trend, and we all knew that it would be a huge kind of winning one for the family. But at the same time, given the COVID and this entire digital transformation, the family had to really save some of the legacy businesses at the same time. That was getting challenged by the macro. So they made a decision to sell off this blue chip company to save the legacy business with the resource. And I mean, you can argue was that a right decision or not, but that was a decision that was made. And they had no options to think about how to do it, what's the right way to structure it. Not many real, like, insider or friends that could really consult with. And KKR was basically ready to take the deal, and they did. So they bought it at $300 million. About a year and a half later, they sold it back to a different Korean conglomerate, neighbor friend, at $1.2 billion. I remember getting a lot of calls from the working level people. They thought I was doing more like an asset management when I was doing a venture capital fund, saying, why do you let this happen? Yes, I still remember looking at it, and it was quite painful to see how they had to deal with it. But what I do see now is more of these, not just from my family, but from the peer groups. COVID-19 is definitely facilitating it. There's going to be a lot of spin-off, merger, distressed opportunities, and we happen to be in one of the best positions, and with the trust, and also access to people like all yourselves who've been doing this, at the top level. So that's one thing we have in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you guys are mentioning that there are some tax implications that are making Korean conglomerates spin off businesses, you said. We had a couple of questions from the audience. One is there a national or regional U.S. strategy where there is a diversity concentration?
Can you, in terms of this specific strategy,
for this strategy where you're more focused on selling into the U.S. market than selling into?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're talking to groups like yours, Marty, because beyond the capital, which is already plentiful in Asia, we need some strategic operating families or institutions that can kind of take our portfolio projects and help them scale and grow properly, because each market has its own cultural nuances.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Marty, even without the global strategy or U.S. strategy, just the distressed assets in Asia or the really hot ones that we have access to itself is a great opportunity. But then the reason why we're presenting this opportunity is because all those good ones we see in Asia, they end up becoming a very successful one in Asia. Many of them don't go beyond that, not go truly global. U.S. market, European market, is always their kind of dream, but then we now see huge demand over here. So we're kind of being the matchmakers by connecting it with the right people who can curate it in this market, and our job is to find the right one over there and connect. We think if we execute that well, we think there's a huge opportunity.
Sure. So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left, guys. I have just a couple of questions that hopefully you guys can work through real quick. I know, Brian, that you run a fund before. On the venture capital side, and so are you guys going to be creating a fund or a special purpose vehicle, or how do you?
Yes, right. So right now, thanks for that question. I think just to give you the quick summary, we first started inviting our advisors and close friends to our overall holdings. So people who are excited about this overall vision, we're asking them to consider becoming a long-term, a shareholder of the holdings company, which we call sounding board members. Other than that, our goal is, as I mentioned about the Maum capital piece. Yes, the ultimate goal is to introduce a more institutional vehicle where we will have a pool of capital. At this moment, as we are thinking about that, we are first presenting like the live concert type, the music, project as a SPV for now.
Yeah, just to give you kind of context, with this concert, we're anticipating minimum, 3 times money within 3 months, just because of the immense cash flow and the pent-up demand for online concerts for the artists that we work with.
So I have a couple more questions. And they're more kind of like employment and political. So, and then we got to end it because I got to move on to the next speaker. But what's the cost of severance for terminated workers in Korea, number one? And secondly, is Korea benefiting from the U.S.-China rift?
The cost of severance for terminated workers in Korea, it's quite complicated, but it's quite typical as well. Like kind of more like, like a 3 months, severance, but it's pretty straightforward. It's more like that. So it's not really that heavy, to be honest. Korea benefit from the U.S.-China rift. I do believe so. The quick answer I would give is I do believe so. But, because, we're the, ally and a strategic partner to U.S. market. And it's really the contents and the product and the quality and the trust factor that I think, bringing more attention to Korea at this moment. I don't know, Sean, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I agree. I mean, South Korea is, seen as a role model, in this COVID-19 climate. And as Brian mentioned, we have kind of roots dating back to the Korean War with America. So we are kind of maybe the only strategic ally, aligned in the region. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, listen, guys, thanks so much. Very informative, and looking forward to getting more information from you about what you're going to be doing. And just, keep me in the loop, keep the group in the loop. And we'll be sending out your contact information to the different people who are on this call, so they'll be able to ask you for your presentation. I have some people that just asked many questions and we weren't able to get to them. So there's a lot of interest, and I think people want to know how all this works. So, but I got to move on to Jeff Lerman.